Wall Street rally takes a pause as the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq correct for the second day in a row, while the Dow dips for the fourth straight session ahead of the release of the CPI data for the month of November later this evening. Shares of Alphabet surge over 5% as it unveils a new quantum computing chip. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific are largely lower following weak cues from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty is also suggesting a flat start for our own markets. Gold prices continue to rise, hitting a two-week high as buying continues ahead of the release of the November CPI data later this evening in the U.S. Brent crude prices remain range-bound around $72 a barrel. Former Revenue Secretary Sanjay Malhotra will take charge as the new RBI governor for a three-year term. Later today, Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth has been given additional charge as the Revenue Secretary. And diversified retailer Vishal Megamart's 8,000 crore rupee offer for sale IPO opens for subscription later today, and TPG-backed pharma firm Sai Life Sciences IPO and digital banking platform MobiKwik's 572 crore rupee issue also open for subscription today. Good morning. It's the middle of the week. Plenty of IPOs, plenty of action lined up today. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC-TV18 in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Hormuz Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have started off this morning. It's a predominantly negative picture as we speak. Hang Seng trying to be an outlier here, 0.5% higher. The Taiwanese index is trading with some losses, as is the Nikkei in Japan. The Kospi, though, is an outperformer on the Asia-Pacific screen today, trading with gains of around 0.8%. So the South Korean markets are recovering some of the losses that they had made during this political crisis. They were up yesterday, they are up today as well, so carrying on some of the gains. The Shanghai Composite is absolutely flat as well. So overall, it's a mixed picture that is emerging from the Asian markets. And pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and that will give you a picture of how our own markets are likely to start off. Well, still hovering around the flat line. It was negative a few minutes ago and now it's turned positive, but the meandering around the flat line is the GIFT Nifty, as the implied open is suggesting as well. But this caution comes in from the cautious handover that we have received from Wall Street as well, because Tuesday's trading session was no different from Monday. All the benchmark indices ended lower. They are awaiting the key inflation data that is due later this evening. The Dow fell 150 points, a fourth day of losses for them. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq also around 0.3% lower, second day of losses for them as well. CNBC's Bertha Coombs gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
Markets fell on Tuesday as investors await crucial inflation data coming out Wednesday morning. The Dow was down 154 points to notch 4 losing days in a row. The S&P 500 shed 18, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq was down 49. The Commerce Department finalized a more than $6 billion subsidy for chip maker Micron. The investment will support the construction of several domestic semiconductor facilities and is expected to create 20,000 jobs by the end of the decade for projects in New York and Idaho. The money comes from the CHIPS Act. President Biden's administration has doubled down on fueling domestic semiconductor production, seeking to reduce reliance on China and Taiwan. And a U.S. judge has blocked the pending $25 billion merger of grocery chains Kroger and Albertsons. A federal judge ruled in favor of the Federal Trade Commission, which argued at a 3-week trial that the merger would eliminate competition and lead to higher prices for consumers. The agency also argued that it would reduce bargaining leverage for unionized workers. Kroger claimed the deal could bring prices down and pointed to competition from Walmart, Amazon, and others as the real threat to affordable prices. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back over to you in Mumbai.
Caution on Wall Street ahead of the all-important inflation data this evening. But staying with Wall Street as the current year draws to a close, let's listen in to what market experts and economists have to say on what is in store for 2025 and where they think the U.S. economy is headed.
The market's still pricing in 25% of recession probability. Our economists are still of the view that there's a labor unwind that we need to be wary of going into the first start of the year. I don't see it. I think we're in a no-cycle circumstance. We're still migrating our way out of the post-pandemic time frame. To your earlier discussion, what's really happening here, recession or not, or recession risk or not, is that the underlying fundamentals for the S&P 500 are in really good shape.
Optimism is always great, and we've seen quite a bit of it over the last month. I think the last 4 weeks ending Friday was one of the biggest monthly flows on record, 140 billion into equities that we've seen. So there's clearly a lot of optimism going forward. We think, as you know, our outlook for 2025 at Goldman Sachs is still positive equity returns, but there's a lot of tail risks. There's a lot of places where there can be some stumbles, and we're so concentrated right now, at least in the equity market, and so few names. It's not going to be shocking to say that we think you should be broadening out, thinking about diversifying your portfolio now.
I think the break you'll see is going to likely be in the economy. There'll be something in the economy that doesn't smell right, look right, feel right, and the markets will begin to respond to that. Right now, what do we have? We've got a decent growth, above trend inflation, and the Fed cutting interest rates. In my mind, that's not usually a recipe for success if you want things to end well. If we think about the Fed meeting next week, are they going to go? 90% is priced in. But the question is the Fed really going to go if, we get a very high CPI print later this week? And I think, there's a lot riding on these inflation numbers next week or later this week, and that'll have an impact on what the Fed chooses to do at the next meeting.
All eyes on the Fed as well. Time to get to the final update on our global market wrap this morning. The European markets ended Tuesday's trading session lower, snapping an 8-session winning streak as investors gear up for the inflation data in the US. The French CAC was down over 1%, while the DAX closed just below the flat line, and the FTSE 2 ended with losses of nearly 1%. The Pan-European Stock 600 also closed 0.5% lower, with sectors mainly retreating in yesterday's trading session. But that's all we have on the global market action. How will all of these overnight cues impact our own markets? Our research team is joining in with how the trade setup looks like and the stocks that are likely to be in the news, along with the F&O setup as well. First up, Vivek is joining in to get us all the market cues that you need to watch out for. Vivek, good morning. It seems that the street is on the edge ahead of some very important data. How's the setup looking like this morning?
Well, good morning. Absolutely right. Right on edge. Thin volumes headed towards the end of the year. So a lot of very thin trade volume across global as well as Indian equity markets. Like you mentioned, Wall Street given a very muted handover, Dow down for the fourth straight session, Nasdaq, S&P both down for the second straight session. Oil prices, after the Chinese stimulus data, has seen a bit of a spike up. Yesterday, largely steady, largely flattish. Brent hovering around the $72.5 a barrel mark. Gold prices are at a fresh 2-week high. Now, coming to the Indian markets yesterday. Indian markets yesterday ended largely flat. It ended off the day's low, given the fact that there was a last hour buying that you actually saw from the lows of the day. When you're talking about the broader end of the market, that actually outperformed, helped market breadth stay quite positive. IT stocks were the top sectoral gainers, while when you're talking about one particular pocket that did see very high volatility, it was the insurance pack, and within that, LIC was one particular stock that did see some significant weakness given the fact that the November operational data was quite muted. Key to watch today, primary market activity, 3 fresh IPOs are coming today, open for subscription. That'll be something important to watch out for. Like you mentioned, Asian markets GIFT Nifty indicating a muted start for our own markets.
Muted start. We'll keep an eye out on that, Vivek. Thanks a lot for that. Over to Vamakshi, who would list out the stocks you need to watch out for today. Vamakshi, good morning. What's on your list?
Well, good morning, Hormaz. Let me first start off with Asian Granito. They've entered into a JV agreement with Shudh Investments and Klein Stone Limited. They will be acquiring shares of Klein AGL, which is a JV company, in order to do trading business of large porcelain slabs, all types of tiles and quartz products. Watch out for office space solutions as well. Sources suggest that BIST, Link Investment Trust and Peak 15 Partners Investment is likely to sell nearly 12.2% stake in the company via block deals. The floor price for the deal has been set at 680 rupees per share, which is coming in at a discount of almost 5.2% to the closing price yesterday. Overall, the size of the deal is expected to be at 583 crores. HG Infra has received an LOA from the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways for a project worth 763 crores. NTPC Green, its arm NTPC Renewable Energy, has won a 500 megawatt solar power project in an e-reverse auction conducted by SECI, which is the Solar Energy Corporation of India. They will be setting up an energy storage system along with the contracted solar capacity. Ashiana Housing, the Directorate General of GST Intelligence, has conducted search at its premises in Bhavadi. LTI Mindtree has announced a partnership with GitHub Forge to accelerate AI-driven software engineering. Indian Overseas Bank has received order confirming a refund of almost 1,360 odd crores from the Income Tax Department for assessment year 2015-16. And lastly, keep an eye out on BEML, and that is because the company has bagged order from the Ministry of Defence for supply of 50-ton trailer for contract value of 83.5 crores.
Thanks a lot for that, Vamakshi. And finally, over to Mangalam, who's joining in with cues from the F&O space. Mangalam, good morning. Respecting the ranges, the Nifty so far, what's the setup on the F&O side looking like?
Well, during December, one typically thinks there is consolidation, there isn't much movement, there isn't much work, etc. And if you add winter Bombay to December, then the market's in a bit of a snooze. That's exactly what's happening on the Nifty, down about 9 points in yesterday's trading session. But if you look at it, over the last 3 trading sessions, which includes last Friday as well, the Nifty's range has been, 130, 125 on an average, 150 odd points itself. And on a base of 25,000, it's less than 0.5%. If you look at, the channel on which the Nifty is as well, you have, the 24,751 high on December 6th, 24,678 high yesterday. Yes, there is a range, but that range is slowly coming lower. So that is something we need to keep an eye out on. Nothing really to worry so long as this data point stays put, which is the FII buying and the DII buying in cash market. Of the 7 sessions that we've had in December so far, 5 of them have seen FIIs buy in the cash market, close to 13,000 crores in this month itself. But they've, trimmed some positions in index futures. They've unwound some 6,500 long contracts, added about 2,500 short contracts. That too is not a big worry because at the start of the series, they were net short by about, 33%, or at the same time, we had seen the net contracts at around 1.18 lakh. That has now come down to sub 50,000, and long positions have increased from 33% to 43% itself. What is the range now that the street is playing for? 24,600 call has a premium of 113, telling you 24,708 is a bit of a resistance zone. At the lower level, 24,600 put has a premium of 120 rupees. So telling you again, 24,480 is an important support, and that magically or miraculously ties up with the 50-day moving average and the 100-day moving average on the index as well. Were you to expand the range and perhaps sell the straddle, which is 24,600 call and put together, the range would expand a little from 24,400 to 24,800 itself. That's the broad range. So let's talk about specific stocks because those are, more active in trades lately. Nykaa saw a lot of long positions being added. LIC after the week monthly insurance data, first month in F&O, saw a lot of short positions being added. And Metropolis, we had pointed out the possibility of entering F&O ban. It's gone ahead and entered F&O ban in today's trading session.
Mangalam, thanks a lot for that F&O setup for the day as well. Time for a short break. Up next, we get you highlights of an interesting conversation with Ramdev Agrawal and Bharti Airtel's Akhil Gupta from the Motilal Oswal Wealth Creation Study. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, Motilal Oswal has identified bruised blue chips as the stocks to bet on. Now, the annual wealth creation study authored by Ramdev Agrawal argues that blue chip stocks that have declined over 50% from their 5-year highs are the best bets for high returns. Now, Prashant Nair spoke to Ramdev Agrawal and a panel of experts on one such stock, that is Bharti Airtel, that has been able to turn around and hold fort despite a competitive landscape and entry of newer players.
As a growing company in 2002-03, at 25, they came out with public issue, I think, at about $45. And in 2003, January, they declared the break-even. And then at 24 rupees, we bought, and the stock went to 1180 in next 2.5 years. I mean, 50x in like 2.5, 3 years. So that was the ride I had. And that's why I have been meeting Sunil and Akhilji off and on. But I was stunned to see the kind of capital management they did, in the sense that they went to Africa because they had so much of cash flow, they didn't know where to deploy. And so I don't know whether I would call it as a capital misallocation.
We did have a difficult time in Africa, but that was, I would say it was a growth market. But of course, some of the currency problems have been very severe, which we never anticipated. Nobody can actually. Not a terrible decision, but yes, some internal mistakes in terms of execution. We are back on track. So not a real bad capital allocation in 2010, when things were just phenomenal. We were making so much money that if we were not able to grow at that time, it would have been not good for the investors.
No, Bharti's done a phenomenal job of turning around things. They faced maximum pressure at a point of time. As an incumbent operator, whatever I have read and experienced, I don't think an incumbent has ever faced this kind of a pressure from a new entrant. Like it was like in basketball, you say full court pressure. It was that kind of pressure here, so. And they fought back and they came back, which was quite extraordinary here, so. And I think now they're here to stay, so. They fought it and they fought it clearly on customer service, and and they brought down their cost to be able to operate at the structure at which the new person was operating.
Well, moving on to some national updates then. The Reserve Bank of India will welcome its 26th governor today as Sanjay Malhotra officially takes charge. His appointment marks the conclusion of Shaktikanta Das's 6-year tenure, during which he successfully navigated critical economic challenges. Now, Sanjay Malhotra's appointment comes at a time when inflation is above the RBI's comfort zone and growth is also at a 21-month low. Now, Malhotra also becomes the latest finance ministry official to steer the RBI after the outgoing governor Shaktikanta Das, as well as previous governors D. Subbarao, Y.V. Reddy and Bimal Jalan. Now, Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth will take additional charge of the Finance Ministry's Revenue Department after Sanjay Malhotra's appointment as RBI Governor as well. Well, time for a short break. Up next, we get you cues from the commodity space. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now on to some corporate conversations. Speaking to my colleague Rashna Dhandajani on the sides of the Rajasthan Global Business Expo in Jaipur, HUDCO MD and CEO Sanjay Kulshrestha said that the company is hopeful that the PM Awas Yojana 2.0 will come up with big plans for infrastructure in the country. Listen in to that conversation.
We are very hopeful that PMAY 2.0 will come up with a big plan of the infrastructure in the country.
But NPAs continue to remain a concern for HUDCO. How do you sort of plan to tread that?
Let me update on this aspect. I think our NPA is one of the lowest in the industry, and we are committed that within 2 years our net NPA will be zero. Presently our net NPA is only 0.31. So during this year only we want that it will come below 0.3, and the gross NPA is only 2.42. So for FY25 I am very hopeful that it will come around 2.3%. So if you see the other players in the financial segment, HUDCO has we have a lowest NPA, that I can make a statement.
Right. What other areas of growth are you looking for the next fiscal, or what are the sectors that you're targeting or geographies?
We are a company which provides entire spectrum of the infrastructure funding. So I don't think any segment has left behind. So green shoots are there, yes, because there are green opportunities are coming, and we want to work towards the carbon capturing mechanism, because carbon is the biggest concern, and Honorable Prime Minister has committed that we should be net zero by 2070, and every industry and every industry is working towards that goal only. And the Viksit Bharat theme is very, very defined kind of themes, and whatever the company is doing or
is there a breakup of the capex? How much would be dedicated towards green?
If you say at least 50% of the capex will go towards the green and the social sector, because if you see, the green and the social are one and the same thing. They are the part of the coin only.
Ambitious targets there from HUDCO. But what is a day when you don't talk about quick commerce? And now Amazon is taking on Blinkit, Swiggy, Instamart, Zepto and others in this space. Now it is set to pilot its 15-minute delivery service in Bengaluru starting next month. Now speaking to CNBC-TV18, the company's Senior Vice President of Emerging Markets, Amit Agrawal, said that Amazon already delivers products within an hour and quick commerce is just an extension of that.
Customers probably they do realize, because we see customers shopping with us every day, more than 4 million products are available to customers to ship next day. More than 1 million products are available for customers to be shipped on the same day. Hundreds of thousands of products shipped to customers within hours. and tens of thousands of products shipped to them within an hour or so. So we already have customers enjoying speed on Amazon. What we are, the speculation that you have, what we are excited to do starting this month is to start having our customers, starting with Bangalore, get the most popular few thousand of products shipped to them in minutes.
Well, let us now also get you an update on the commodity space. Now, gold prices hit a 2-week high on the back of geopolitical tensions and expectations of a third rate cut by the U.S. Federal Reserve next week. Now, meanwhile, oil prices remain steady around $72 a barrel as concerns eased over the fallout from the overthrow of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. That's all the updates we have from the commodity space, and that's all we have on this edition of Power Breakfast as well. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call up next to set you up for today's trade.